Everyone. Thank you for joining today's webinar. We'll get started in just a few moments. We have a lot more people joining in the session. In the meantime, please review the housekeeping guidelines that we have here, and we'll be right with you. Okay, fantastic. All right, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining today's webinar on U.S. MoCRA GMP certification and vegan trends in cosmetics. Please feel free to send us any questions. We're going to have a Q&A session after the webinar, well, after we presented, and we will also have some poll questions during the webinar as well. So please participate in that. My name is Lawrence Muchnick. I'm the National Sales Manager for Cosmetics and Personal Care for Audits and Certifications in the United States. Your speaker today will be Hank Carrion. Hank is our Global Head of Cosmetics, Pharma, and FSMA. I can tell you that SGS is the world's leading inspection, verification, testing, and certification company. We have over 97,000 employees here in over 2,650 locations around the world, and expertise across 11 global industry sectors. We provide assistance and expertise with global support services and cater to all industries. Okay. What I could tell you here is within the comprehensive suite of services, SGS presents an array of offerings spanning from the entire supply chain. While our capabilities may seem extensive, it is important to note that SGS is dedicated to upholding contemporary standards for audits and certifications across diverse facets of the supply chain, ranging from raw material to formulation to packaging, finished goods, distribution, and retail. In subsequent segments of the webinar, our focus will be directly towards 22716, so please keep an eye on that. It will align seamlessly with the principles of MoCRA. And our next slide here, presented are the distinct service categories encapsulated within SGS, ranging from analytical to micro to in vitro services to clinical performance testing. Our testing team, Jason, and the rest of the team there, George, provide a full array of testing offerings. Additionally, we provide regulatory services as well as audit certifications, certification services aligning within contemporary industry standards. Should you require any information, please contact us. We'll be happy to offer you a quote within that. Lastly, I just want to present our Digi Compliance services. It's a cutting-edge digital regulatory tool offering most comprehensive perform risk and prediction and compliance intelligence. I mean, AI being huge right now in the marketplace. With AI-powered regulations catalog, it provides a rapid and precise access to cosmetics regulations, 150 plus markets, monitoring over 100,000 web pages. It also complies a vast database of 200,000 regulations, facilitating unique horizon scanning capabilities. SGS DigiComply also ensures up-to-date and validated regulatory data available in local languages in English, as well as offering any inquiries. Please reach out to us. We'll be happy to assist you within it. And now what we'll do is we'll turn it over to Hank to go over the agenda of today's webinar. Hank, it's off to you.
Thank you, Larry.
You're welcome.
Hello, everyone. Today's agenda is going to be packed with various topics around cosmetics. Hopefully, this will address a lot of the questions that we've been receiving from our clients globally. In terms of the services you've just seen, today we're going to just touch upon some of the main topics that are very much the latest developments in the cosmetics area, specifically in the United States, especially with MoCRA. And then we'll be talking about a little bit about the global supply chain and what are the requirements there, some of the requirements and the drivers for those requirements. We'll be discussing GMP, and within that context, our regulatory landscape, global regulatory landscape, because we have to consider a little bit of the export also opportunities around us. So that will give you a little bit of flavor of what's happening around the globe, and what you're doing today is also going to affect your operations and your business in the future. And then we've got a nice session about V-label and vegan and vegetarian cosmetics, personal care and household products. And we'll be ending the session with the Q&A, whereby we will be taking your questions and answering as many of them as possible. Now, if at the end of but in the meantime, you can start already putting down your questions in that dedicated area for questions, and we will be taking them, queuing them and taking them one by one at the end of the session. So let's start with MoCRA. A lot of you know MoCRA. Some of you have heard about it but don't know it. So let's talk a little bit about MoCRA. So really what it is a regulation. That's the Modernization of Cosmetics Regulation. That's what it stands for. That was issued in 2022 with the objective of strengthening cosmetics regulations in the United States. It entails significant expansions of the FDA's authority to enforce the regulation. It defines and redefines some of the terms, such as cosmetic product, for instance, which is defined as a preparation of cosmetic ingredients with a qualitatively and quantitatively set composition for use in a finished product. Then there is the definition of the facility. And why is it important to define the term facility? Because there is a facility registration requirement in MoCRA. Therefore, a facility is an establishment that manufactures or processes cosmetic products distributed in the United States. And that also obviously entails local as well as foreign facilities exporting their their cosmetic products into the United States. In terms of the facility registration requirements, cosmetic product manufacturers and processors must register their facilities with FDA, and therefore renew also their registration every 2 years. FDA intends to delay the enforcement, and it hasn't actually delayed the enforcement of the cosmetic product facility registration and product listings until July 1st, 2024. And for the first time, the regulation also presents the notion of responsible person. That is basically the manufacturer, packer, or distributor of cosmetic product whose name appears on the label of the cosmetic product. So responsible person, facility, product listing, ingredient listing, and therefore those are requirements that constitute the MoCRA regulation. Now, FDA, we talked about registration, facility registration, as well as product listing, and FDA anticipates that electronic submission, technical assistance documents, and paper submission forms will be available at the end of this year, December. Well, we are at the end of the year, so December 2023 was the timeline, and that's what we expect. And therefore, in terms of the responsible person, which is, as we said, one of the new requirements in MoCRA is that a responsible person is required to report serious adverse events associated with the use of the cosmetic products to FDA within 15 business days, for instance. Another responsibility of the responsible person is safety substantiation of the product, and that's also an important requirement and a new requirement. I should note, however, that FDA regulations do not require specific tests to demonstrate the safety of individual products or ingredients. A responsible person is therefore required to ensure and maintain records supporting adequate safety substantiation of their cosmetic products. They can use relevant safety data. However, it's important that all the data that are used to support the safety are derived from scientifically robust methods. As with any other regulation, there are certain exemptions in MoCRA. The regulation exempts certain small businesses from facility registration and product listing requirements. However, such exemptions do not apply to facilities that manufacture or process or responsible persons for the following cosmetic products: products that regularly come into contact with mucous membrane of the eye, products that are injected, products that are intended for internal use, and then there are some, and also for products that are intended to alter appearance for more than 24 hours. So there are specific exemptions and conditions for exemptions, as you can see. MoCRA is also setting the grounds for other requirements and new regulations that FDA will later publish and establish. And the most important one of them is the good manufacturing practice. Now, good manufacturing practices, as we all know, as it states, the FDA's current good manufacturing guidance, or FDA's draft guidance for the industry, has been the cosmetic good manufacturing practice of June 2013. As of today, as of now, that's still the reference that we have been using for GMP, for good manufacturing practices. But as soon as the new regulation comes out, then obviously this will be superseded. Then we do have fragrance allergen labeling requirements that will also be published, records access, mandatory recall authority. That's another one that we expect FDA to issue. And then standardized testing methods for detecting, identifying asbestos in talc containing cosmetic products. That's another one. There's also the issue of PFAS, and PFAS in cosmetics, as you know, is a topic of concern. And FDA has said that it acknowledges that additional research is needed on the topic to determine the toxicological profiles of PFAS, the extent to which absorption takes place through the skin, and the potential effect and the adverse health effect that it might have upon exposure. FDA also says that it continues to monitor as data comes in, and those studies and research data comes in as well, to be able to determine the next steps. So you can see a poll question in front of you. We'd appreciate if you could take a few seconds just to reply to it. It's really a simple, quick question, and I'll be happy to share the results with you right as soon as we close the poll. So how do you feel about your compliance level with MoCRA right now? Do you feel like you got too much work to do? You feel like you're almost there, you just need some fine tuning? Do you feel like you're not sure at all and you're still in the learning phase? Or do you really feel confident and you should say we're all set and ready? So let's see what you have to say. Please go ahead and provide a response, and we'd appreciate your feedback on this. Very well. So there was almost equal percentage of you that said you're almost there, you just need some fine tuning. But then on the other side of it, on the other extreme, there's some of you who said they're not sure and we're still learning. And that's perfectly fine. That's the case with any regulation that comes out. And we're here to help. So hopefully today's session is going to be a step towards completion of that gap that you've talked about, or even a step forward towards understanding the regulation better and where you are and where you want to be. Some of you have said they're all set and ready, which is perfect, and others have said that they still got much work to do. So hopefully, again, we will help you, and today's webinar will be a step forward for all of us. As we go through the regulation, as we go through the services, and we discuss those topics with our clients, we get across questions. And those questions, we wanted to share some of them with you today. And one of those questions comes from manufacturers, saying that we manufacture, fill, and sell all our own products, but we make less than $1 million in sales annually. Do I have to register my facility and product? Now, there is exemption. We talked about exemptions. We didn't go too much into it, but there is exemption for small businesses. However, it also depends on the product that the facility manufactures. So the exemption, for example, does not apply to cosmetic products, as we said, that come into contact with the mucous membrane of the eye. So you have to keep an eye on what products are covered and what are not covered under that exemption. Also, we said cosmetic products that are injected, cosmetic products that are intended for internal use, and so on. So we've given some conditions, and we've said that some of those products would not be covered by those exemptions. So you really have to be sure that the product you're manufacturing, does not fall into any of those categories that have been prescribed. And the next question that we also would like to share with you today is the manufacturer of cosmetic products for private label customers. So they're not label holders. Their name does not appear on the label, but they manufacture the cosmetic product. So the question is, do we need to register our facility? Now, the answer is that registration is required for owners or operators of facilities that engage in manufacturing and processing. Therefore, the answer is yes. So as long as you are the manufacturer, you are required to register your facility with FDA. Now, but we have to, one more time, underline the fact that facility registration is not the same as product listing and ingredient listing. So your requirement, the requirement that covers you, as long as your name is not on the label, is to register the facility, your facility. Now, as far as product listing and ingredient listing goes, obviously that's, as we said, that is the responsibility of the responsible person. And the third and the last question that we wanted to share with you today is contract manufacturers for multiple private label customers. So what do we do? Do we still have to register for each and every one of them, or do we register our facility just once? So the answer is yes, you just need to register once. So if a facility manufactures or processes cosmetic products on behalf of a responsible person or responsible persons, only one registration will be required. So those are some of the questions that we wanted and answers that we wanted to share with you today. And obviously you have many more questions, and please feel free to ask them in the chat box, dedicated chat box in front of you. So it's important also to understand the nature of the cosmetic product and how it is classified in the US. There is definitions of drugs. There's definitions for cosmetics, also under MoCRA. Under the regulation of facility, that is MoCRA, a facility that is also a drug is exempt from facility registration requirements. So if in the regulation itself, they call it Chapter 5. So if it is a drug, so what you're manufacturing is a drug, then obviously, if it's classified as a drug, then you do not have to register your facility. However, that registration requirement, becomes applicable if you are also manufacturing cosmetics. So again, mindful of what exactly you're doing, what you're manufacturing. So if it falls under drug and drug only, then you don't need to register your facility under MoCRA. But if you have more than one product line, one of them is a drug and the other is not, it's a cosmetic, then you would need to register. Also, if a product is both a drug and a cosmetic product, so it's a cosmeceutical, like the ones that you could see in front of you, medicated shampoo, antiperspirants and so on. So in those cases, a cosmetic product listing is not required to be submitted for such products. So these are requirements that we have to consider when we are dealing with the regulation and when we are dealing with compliance with MoCRA. That takes us into let's look at a little bit of at the higher level of how the global supply chain is shaping up and how our compliance journey today will affect our business tomorrow. Well, first of all, I should say that the global supply chain for cosmetics is under a lot of pressure from multiple sources. We call them drivers. Probably the most important source of those is regulatory. and regulatory compliance is becoming more and more a topic of importance for the cosmetics industry, because a lot of countries have and are still including and adding new regulatory requirements to cosmetics. In terms of regulatory compliance, that's not the only thing, though, that shapes the industry today. There's also quality aspects, safety aspects, efficacy requirements, consistency requirements, brand protection, product-specific requirements, as well as social responsibility requirements, ESG requirements that are very important that need to be considered for brands and so on. Now, how do those drivers translate into supply chain expectations? On the supply chain level, therefore, our cosmetic supply chain, players which are right there at in the middle, in the circle there, as you can see, whether they're manufacturing units, ingredient suppliers, packaging suppliers, and so on, they are therefore all a part of this big supply chain that needs to comply with specific requirements that are driven from those sources that we just talked about. And what are those requirements? The biggest one of them is GXP. We call them GXPs because they could be GMP, good manufacturing practices, good laboratory practices, and so on. So there's quite a few of them right now. So we're talking about, but good manufacturing practices in general is the larger term, and the one that is of higher demand in the marketplace due to the nature and due to the coverage of it. Then you've got quality assurance, regulatory compliance requirements outside GMP, whether they are product-specific, ingredient-specific requirements according to countries and regulations, and so on. So you could see that list in front of you right now, and that's one of the reasons why we do webinars like this, because we want to make sure that we are addressing those expectations, and we are reassuring the market that we are here for our clients, and we are here to help them comply with those requirements and expectations. And that takes us nicely into some of the regulatory requirements around the world. As you could see, in the US, we have been talking about MoCRA, and that's obviously at the top of that list. And the European Union has incorporated ISO 22716. So did Japan. China, for instance, has come up with a regulation, which we will see a little bit of it, a very concise, part of that regulation in the next slide. So the ASEAN countries acknowledge 22716. Canada has endorsed ISO 22716. And as you can see the list in front of you, Brazil, GCC countries in the Gulf, as well as Egypt and Morocco, they have all adopted 22716. So ISO 22716 specifically within the GMP arena is the most popular, the most adopted and recognized scheme. But that's not all, because in China, we have seen that new rules and regulations were introduced in 2021, which have had some impact on those regulations, which have had some impact, especially on GMP. And I'll explain why. Because first of all, there are requirements under the new cosmetics import regulation in China. Facilities that manufacture cosmetics will have to register their cosmetics product. They must have safety assessments of those cosmetics products. And then there's a classification of cosmetic products. So you've got the general cosmetics and special cosmetics. If we, just a very high level introduction to those concepts, the general cosmetics are products that are used daily and are applied to skin, hair, nails, or lips, such, for instance, shampoo, facial creams, moisturizers. And then we also have the special cosmetics. Those special cosmetics are products that pose a higher risk to consumer safety. Examples are hair dyes, skin whitening products, sunscreens, anti-hair loss products. So those are all categorized as special cosmetics in China. And obviously, there's a more rigorous series of applications and product tests that are required to complete a detailed dossier prior to applying to the NMPA for those special cosmetic products. In terms of animal testing, there is exemption conditions for animal testing. So there is conditions for exemption. And this is where I wanted to stop a little bit just to talk about this specific condition, because it really touches GMP. One of the main requirements or conditions for exemption of animal testing is obtaining a GMP certificate. So GMP certification, but not any certification. In the regulation, it says the certificate must be issued by the appropriate government department of the country or a locality where the manufacturer is located. That's what the regulation says. So how did that impact what we are doing today? The impact was that, for instance, we are seeing regulatory bodies, and I could give you the example of Australia, for instance, which is the most advanced right now in terms of regulatory requirements. So the Department of Agriculture, Fisheries and Forestry in Australia, it's the competent authority basically in Australia, has started issuing certificates to Australian cosmetics businesses that can demonstrate that the product that they are exporting to China, or they will be exporting to China, meet the GMP requirements. And as proof of that GMP compliance, they have set a third-party ISO 22716 certification as one of the key, recognized as a recognized activity for GMP compliance. So accredited 22716 is something that we have been getting a little bit of traction around in the past couple of years, but now that we have some new regulations coming in and shaping up the industry, we are seeing more and more demand for that accredited ISO 22716. And it really represents an opportunity for cosmetics exporters to China. In this slide, we introduce GMP, Good Manufacturing Practices. We've been talking about it, and also for 22716. So good manufacturing practices, according to FDA, is to prevent the delivery of cosmetic products that are adulterated or misbranded. Now, as for 22716, ISO 22716, that's the global reference for cosmetics. So it really addresses the requirements of good manufacturing practices, specifically for cosmetic products intended for end users. So that's what makes it significant, and that's what makes it the reference for the cosmetic industry globally. So the standard, the standard itself, the 22716, there are specific, specific areas that it addresses, and those areas are all around good manufacturing practices and all around cosmetics. In terms of certification for ISO 22716, well, certification is valid for 3 years. There's annual surveillance, just like any other certification that you are used to see. There is, well, what it carries really in terms of recognition is that it's because of what we've seen in early slides, because of the global nature of it, because of the regulatory, different countries' regulations adopting it or using it as reference. Therefore, it's the ISO 22716 is the most globally recognized reference for the cosmetics industry. I'm very pleased and proud to say that SGS is accredited. So we do offer accredited certification to our clients for ISO 22716. We have obtained accreditation through ANAB, and therefore, whenever you decide to get accredited certification, you will be receiving a certificate from SGS with the accreditation logo on it. So let's pause for a second time just to ask you a quick question one more time. This poll question is really about accredited certification. Do you think an accredited 22716 certification would help you export your products to other countries? Based on what you have seen, it's we'd like to have your opinion and your feedback on what you think about accredited 22716 based on what you've seen so far. So I'll give you a few more seconds for you, and we'd appreciate your feedback, and it would be appreciated as always. So you could say yes, you could say no, or obviously the third option is I don't know, because it might be that you still need more information on the topic. Okay, and I'll give ourselves a few more seconds before looking at the results here. And 3, 2, 1, and here we go. So 48%, almost half of you said, yes, you do think that Accredited 22716 would help you export your products to other countries. And then 14.8% said no, and then 37% said you don't know. So it's an interesting feedback. We appreciate the feedback, and it would help us also shape our offerings in the near future. So this, with the above topics discussed, let us now talk a little bit about V-Label and vegan and vegetarian cosmetics. First of all, let's stop at the cosmetics, personal care, and household market, and how vegan and vegetarian requirements are shaping up in those markets. Now, according to latest statistics, the global vegan cosmetic market is projected to grow at 6.3% rate a year to reach around $21 billion in 2025. And there are some contributing factors to that, obviously, and specifically changing consumer perception is the biggest one. Also, there is a lot of benefit, or at least perceived benefit around using natural ingredients in beauty products. We've also been seeing a lot of promotional activity around vegan beauty products, which is also shaping the trend and public opinion. And more companies are coming up with new product lines, vegan and vegetarian product lines. We should also say that there is also perceived or awareness of synthetic problems with synthetic products. So which is also making the global consumers look for more healthier, more natural choices when it comes to cosmetics. And this slide right here also shows you how popularity of vegan care has grown, vegan beauty, year after year. And the most popular one right now, well, at this moment, I should say at this time is skincare, the one in blue on the right-hand side in that donut shape. So, but this is a very fluid situation, as you can imagine, because we're dealing with consumer demand and consumer trends, and that trend could and will probably change. Therefore, but we will be keeping a close eye on it anyway. As for the household cleaners, which is an interesting topic and also becoming a trend. The natural household cleaner industry is valued at around $4.6 billion US, and is expected to double by 2025, 2026. Another interesting statistic is that we came across as we were doing our research and our studies on this topic is that with regard to toiletries, for instance, 19% of people do check actually if their toiletries are tested on animals. And obviously, they would not buy toiletry that is tested on animals. So those are specific requirements and specific expectations that we were able to get from the market in terms of research. There's also a very interesting research that was done by the Vegan Society that tells us that 55.5% of consumers think that cosmetic products and toiletries should include more vegan certified products. So they are looking for vegan certified products. 75.3% of consumers think it is quite or very important that vegan cosmetics are certified by a third-party organization, and that's why you can imagine why that is important for us to know and to be able to accompany the marketplace in its certification needs. And then we've got 55.8% of consumers preferring the term vegan over cruelty-free. And by the way, so cruelty-free is a part of the or animal testing is a part of the vegan program, as we will see a little bit later. So what have we done? We have chosen V-Label as our global partner. It is V-Label has been an internationally recognized name since 1996. They have owned their own trademarks and coordinated network of partners in 25 countries and licensors across the world. Today it's really the best known and most used seal of quality for vegan and vegetarian products globally. Worldwide, they have over 50,000 products and service from over 4,300 license holders across the world. And those are significant numbers. We were glad and we are pleased to grow that collaboration with V-Label because it started with food and now it has grown to cosmetic, personal care, and household products. And within that context, the scope itself covers cosmetic products, skin, body, hair, sun, and baby care products, fragrance and perfume products, personal hygiene products, home cleaning products, air fresheners, and as you could imagine, there could be some innovative products that come into the market, and we deal with them on case-by-case basis as well. Under V-Label, a vegetarian product or ingredient is one that is not derived from that animal. So that's important. That's an important notion under vegetarian, and those include, for example, items that contain gelatin or products that made from animals, such as collagen. On the vegan level, no animal products whatsoever are used or should be used during the production process. Dead or alive, they're not allowed. For example, items that contain dairy and honey are not allowed under vegan definition. Also, there should be no end products that can be labeled as GMO within the context of the country's regulation, or whether in the production country or the market where the product is sold. I should say, though, that the vast majority of certification inquiries so far that we have been receiving for V-Label are for vegan, for vegan cosmetics specifically. Now, the V-Label also has specific requirements around animals, as they consider animals as multicellular eukaryotic organisms, that is, organisms whose cells have a nucleus enclosed within membranes, that do not derive their metabolic energy from sunlight like plants do, that need oxygen to breathe, and that are not fungi. All right, so this includes all vertebrates and invertebrates. And you can see here in front of you what is allowed and what is not allowed in terms of vegan certification of cosmetics. In terms of criteria, so the criteria for V-labeling include production standards. So we look for high quality of standards in production and avoiding cross-contamination, which is a very, very important step within the V-label criteria. Auditing and lab controls, and that's where our role comes into play in terms of an auditing body for V-label and certifying body for V-label. As I said earlier, products requiring GMO labeling according to applicable laws cannot be licensed. So it's a part of the V-label requirements. And in terms of animal testings, well, exceptions are permitted only if the main benefit of the product to be tested is for species on which the product is being tested. And just as clinical tests on humans, those tests do not affect the health and well-being of the animals. So we accept. So V-label, animal testing is accepted just as much as human clinical tests are accepted on humans, as long as, therefore, it would not affect the health and well-being of the animal. And then in terms of ingredients, validation includes the whole production process, including and also ingredients, processing aids, and additives throughout the production process. A quick view at the advantages of V-Label. Obviously, we talked about this, briefly, but just to reiterate the importance of having a V-Label on your product, how, creating the awareness, creating the perceptions, associating V-Label with better quality and other positive trait, and that's something that's proven by research. Finding new customers and new markets for your products. V-Label is going to help you with that. And also trust and being able to promote your products across the world, and whether in your local market in the United States or outside the United States, as vegan and vegetarian becomes more and more of a trend globally. Our V-Label audits are typically short audits, half-day audits, which could be different according to the size and complexity of the operation. Audits are announced. We do, upon certification, there's also a recertification every 3 years. Annual certification may or may not be required depending on the risks associated with the product. During the audit, we cover the origin of raw ingredients and additives, and is used, the steps to avoid cross-contamination, so make sure there's no cross-contamination between the three layers, therefore vegan, vegetarian, and regular non-vegan, non-vegetarian products. So that's something of utmost importance, obviously, during the production process for us to audit. And then the status of animal testing, we just talked about animal testing earlier, and the presence of GMO. So if a GMO needs to be declared locally, therefore that product cannot bear the V-Label license. Certification process is straightforward, starts with your inquiries with our local office at SGS, and we would be happy to take those applications in. We review them with V-Label, and once the candidacy is approved for the product to be V-Label licensed, then we go in and do the audit, and the licensing process starts. At the end of the exercise, you receive a license, but also an SGS certificate that for V-Label as well. And just to recap and bring this to an end, why is V-Label certification important? Because we talked about the reputation of V-Label, we talked about the global presence in over 70 countries over globally. Local service by your SGS office, combined audits with other standards like 22716, natural, organic, whatever standard you have out there, V-Label certification could be combined with that. And also flexibility. You will be able to extend your scope if and when you choose to have additional product lines to be added to your V-Label license, then that's doable. There's a lot of flexibility around that. And last but not least, global visibility and global recognition is something that we and more companies are looking for. With that, I would like to pass it on again to Larry. Larry?
Thank you, Hank. Amazing job on the presentation. Just a few slides and we'll get into our whole slew of questions that we received. Training from SGS, I could tell you that we offer a full array of training within this space. As you can see here, we have 22716 internal auditor training coming up in January, February, and March. If you're looking for individual services or you want to get your whole team involved, we could come to your facility or do a remote training for your team as well. So we have different options there that you could certainly reach out to us and we could price out for you. We have discounts according for individuals as well. So please check out our training. It's awesome. And you could definitely learn a lot and have a lot of great resources as well. Okay, and then, and our YouTube page is live. You can click or actually scan that QR code there to subscribe. You can access all of our recordings, our live events, our tours, our sessions. You can even see this session that we did today. The one that we did last month on sustainability and ESG with Adam was amazing. We did another MoCRA webinar back in July with our lead auditor, John Golak. So please check us out on YouTube. You'll definitely be very happy with all the different content that we have and our social media as well. Check us out on LinkedIn. We're constantly posting a lot of new webinars coming and other events. Okay, and we obviously thank you for joining today's session. We'll be emailing you after this with a copy of the webinar so you could share with your team or see at another time. Along with that will be a survey on how you thought about our webinar today. So without no further ado, I'm going to get into these questions because we have a lot here. The first one, Hank, I'm going to shoot off to you here, and it's about V-label. You ready for this?
Sure, Larry. Let's
Fantastic.
Go.
Great. Are V-label audits for raw material and manufacturing sites or cosmetic production for manufacturing sites?
It's really for cosmetic manufacturing. We do have some also, depending on the products themselves. We do have also some ingredients, licensing as well. But the primarily and mostly most of our clients are in the manufacturing sector.
Fantastic. Okay, thank you. And Sherry had asked, what is a rough estimate of how much V-label auditing and certification costs in the US and in Canada?
It's really not a significant cost because, as you've seen, it's there is two costs associated. There's the audit as well as the licensing cost, and the audit itself is a half-day audit, so we're really not looking at the huge investment. And licensing is around 400, 500 euros per license. So again, it's not. I mean, we do within the larger context of cost and global recognition, it's not significant.
Fantastic. Okay, thank you. Harvey asked, so for a V-label claim, if a product has contained a petroleum derived product, such as example, petroleum-based wax with no animal products as ingredients, manufacturing aids, etc., would that pass for V-label audit? A V-cert audit?
I mean, I could see that there is no animal. Again, we have defined vegan, and I'm looking here at the question again. It is about vegan claims. So vegan, the only definition of it is it should not be of any animal origin. So as long as it is not of any animal origin, ingredient, auxiliaries, as well as additives, if none of it is of animal origin, then we are potentially looking at a good candidate for certification. Yes.
Great, thank you. Does ISO 22716 sidestep the animal testing requirement when registering into China?
I think I understand the question. So ISO 22716 itself doesn't. It's the authority that is sending the product into the market, or the local regulatory authorities would be the ones that would issue a certificate, or let's say issue a certificate to the cosmetics manufacturer in that specific country in order for the exemption to apply or to work. I gave the example of Australia early on, so and I'd like to repeat it maybe for the benefit of the audience. So Australia, for instance, has decided to issue certificates and to facilities that hold either accredited 22716 certification or that have been already audited by another Australian authority, which is the Drug Administration equivalent, the TGA in Australia. So right now, if and when your local authority takes a similar step, then yes, 22716, accredited 22716 would then be, also the same rule would apply to other countries. But we just gave the example of Australia because that's the one that is now publicly available to us.
Great, thank you. Harvey asks, is your 22716 accreditation sufficient for China, or do you still need an acceptable government agency certification along with that for products made in the US?
Now, for products made in the US, we do not have the status right now at this moment. At this moment, we don't have it. Maybe maybe there is discussion around, but 22716 accreditation or certification, accredited certification would anyway help you get your GMP aligned, because GMP is also a requirement in China. So in any case, you would still benefit from a certification for ISO 22716 in order to comply with, at minimum, the GMP requirements of the regulation.
Got it. Great. Thank you. Okay. And Brad here asks, if we contract package a baby wipe for several customers using the same formulation, does each customer have to register the product with their trade names? Good question.
Yeah, well, again, the regulation itself has said that a responsible person would be the one registering their products and their ingredients. So as long as that product is, as long as that therefore the responsible person will continue to do that, because it, and the logic here is that you might be contract packaging it, but eventually the product itself may or may not have differences between one client and the other. So there's a lot that plays into that specific scenario, and therefore responsible person or persons will be the ones listing their products and their ingredients with FDA individually.
Great, thank you. Lizette asks, can you provide a link to cosmetic GMPs that are in public comment phase? FDA stated that they wouldn't be available until mid-2024.
Yeah, they're still not available at the moment. So as soon as they become available, you'll know about it. We'll hopefully do another webinar by then. If not, then we'll definitely put it out there for the international, for our clients and the international audience, but especially the US audience to know about.
Got it. Great. Thank you. Brad asks, we contract package wipes, including cosmetic baby wipes that are regulated as a medical device. Since we are already registered with FDA for medical device, are we exempt from registering for MoCRA?
Well, if your products are covered under the Drug and Devices Chapter 5 of the FD&C, then you are exempt from registering your facility with MoCRA. Yes.
Great, thank you. For number 7, Harvey, if you meet one exemption exclusion in one plant, but it's not good for the second one, are you exempt for the other plant, or do you totally lose your exemption? What we'll do with this one, Harvey, is we'll touch base after the webinar today and email you an answer for that one. And then we do have one last question here. Are there any testing requirements under MoCRA?
There are no testing requirements under MoCRA except for the asbestos testing with specific talks and so on. So, but in general terms, FDA has not provided specific requirements around testing in general.
Fantastic. Okay, thank you. And also that last question with Terry, do you offer an audit for GMP under MoCRA? We will also touch base after the webinar via email with an answer. Other than that, we are all wrapped up for questions here. So I want to thank everybody for joining the session today. Hank, any last words before we close here?
No, I think well, this is a developing process, and that's all I wanted to say to wrap this up. It's a developing, regulation with bits and pieces coming in. So hopefully, every time we get something new happening with the regulation around MoCRA, we'll make sure that our audience, our clients know about those specifics. And hopefully today's session was beneficial. And thank you, Larry, for moderating it.
Thank you, Hank. One last thing before we close here. If any questions come up, or would you like to take a deeper dive, a discovery call with us, we'll be happy to help you navigate this. If there was any questions or recommendations, or even a request for a 22716 audit and getting a quote, we could also help you out with that. And direct any questions towards training as well. I want to thank everyone for joining the session today, and have a great rest of the week. And happy holidays, everyone. Take care.
Yes, happy holidays.